Oh, I was so excited when I saw this game. Magnus Carlsen taking on Gere Sune Tallaksen. I hope I pronounced it right, maybe not right, but the reason why I was excited is because Magnus was playing against a 2400 rated IM. I don't know when was the last time he played it. And somehow in Gere Sune Tallaksen, I could see myself because I'm also 2400 rated IM. And I was like, how is this guy going to play against Magnus Carlsen? And this happened at the Norwegian Team Championship. I mean, generally, Magnus doesn't need to play such events, but he always likes challenge. He always loves to play chess. And so he said, let me go and play it. So Magnus was white, 2865. Opponent is 2466. He opens the game with 1 e4. Tallaksen goes c6, Karo Khan, knight f3, d5, and I loved Magnus's choice here. He played d3. Now there are many ways to play this position. In fact, bishop g4 is an idea. G6 is also an idea. But generally, when you give this position for the first time to someone, his question is, what happens if I just take, and take the queen? I mean, isn't it slightly better for black because white has lost his castling rights? Not really. Magnus Carlsen differs in a big way to your assessment here. He thinks that white is doing well, and you will see that he now puts knight bd2, e5, and brings his knight to c4. So already this move e5, I am a little bit doubtful about it. Knight gf6 could have been the more natural way to play in this position, but e5, black gains space in the center, but at the same time, now Magnus goes knight c4. And notice, he's putting pressure here, and after you play f6, he brings his other knight to d2. Now, this is slightly weird move, but I think what Magnus wants to do is get his knight to b3 in this position. And also, it does make sense in a way. Like for example, if b5, I can just simply jump with my knight and then the other knight could come to b3. So knight c5 was played here, and now a4. Again, a good move here, stopping b5, at the same time also preparing b4 so that the knight cannot settle down on a4. Bishop e6, b4, knight d7, c3. Now, when I see such a position, by the way, d4 is controlled. Now, king can go to c2. Excellent position for white. When I see position like this, and I see Magnus Carlsen is white, black is 2460 rated player, 400 elo points below Magnus, I would already say the game is kind of over, right? Because Magnus is amazing at grinding positions which are equal. Here he's better. It's like a queenless endgame / middle game. But Gere Sune Tallaksen is like, he's fighting hard. He goes knight h6, king c2, knight f7, knight b3 by Magnus, very good move. Knight d6, he trades, and now puts his knight on an excellent square on a5. This is a very irritating knight. The reason is it attacks b7 and you can't push your b pawn because c6 falls. So here black castles, and now white decides to exchange his bishop, which is a very good idea because now the remaining bishop is not a great piece. Black goes bishop e7. Maybe the bishop could have gone back to c7. Maybe knight b6 was an option. There were many possibilities, but bishop e7 makes sense. And now, okay, a5 gaining space is also possible, but Magnus goes bishop e3, attacking the pawn here, b6. And although the position is symmetrical, guys, you can literally feel it that white is better. First of all, his bishop is way superior than the black bishop. His knight is way superior than the black knight. Also, his king is well placed. He has more space. His rooks can come in the center. So all in all, black is in trouble. Rook hd1 by Carlsen, king c7. And now I think Magnus went in because he felt it that he is better here. He pushed with a5. I think on another day, Magnus could have been a bit more patient and expanded also on the other side. This is a typical strategy which Magnus is a big expert in. and you put the ball in your opponent's court. Maybe he goes wrong somewhere, like let's say he goes h5, you go g3, you just kind of play it there. You want to play f3 maybe, then f4, and the pressure might become too much for someone to handle against Magnus. So a5, now Gere played b5, and now here I think Carlsen could have gone knight b2, and he keeps his edge. He can double down the d file. Then maybe his knight can go from d3 to c5 if possible. a7 pawn is slightly weak. So, you know, there are a lot of things to take care of here. But Carlsen was in an aggressive mood and he went knight b6. Now, very interesting. When now the tactics begin, you know, it's very, very nice. So firstly, my question is, what happens if I take? Well, if you take, I take back. And now you have 3 squares to go to c8, b8 and b7. Let's look at them one by one. If you go king c8, I have rook a7, and now I'm putting pressure here, and I have rook c7 check as a threat. It's really not possible for you to defend everything. If you go king b8 in this position, then I can here play rook a6, and the idea is to double here, and it once again looks very dangerous for black. You know, like if you go knight f8, I go rook a1, check is coming up with a mate, it's over. The other move is king b7 in this position, but that also doesn't work because of check directly and then the other rook coming in, or rook c7 check. It's over. So the point is, why not take with the knight on b6? I mean, you can just take it, but now a check, king b8. And I think this is the moment where white has to decide what to do. Let's say white plays bishop b6. I take on d1, king d1. And now bishop d8, very cool move. Bishop comes back, you can't take because rook is hanging, and now bishop c7, and I think black has stabilized here. Imagine that you don't take on d8 here, on b6, and you take on e7. Then I take on d1, take here, check, king here, and now very important move for black. What is it? Try to think. Rook d7, and somehow black is beating off the attack and can defend here as well. So, you know, maybe taking on b6 was the best way, but you know, when Magnus sacrifices a piece and also it's not very clear how to defend, you get a bit intimidated. So black went knight b8, and this is where Magnus had to decide how to continue. So I would like you to pause the video and try to figure out what would you play here. So the move here, and very pretty move, is actually a6. It's a tremendous move. And the point is that if you, by the way, take here on b6, then I can take on d8. Very important move. You take with the rook, and I go a7. Next move, I'm going a8, and I'm simply winning. Notice that you cannot push directly a7 here because of knight d7, and black is winning because he has 2 rooks there. So a6, if you go rook takes d1, there is a very nice intermediate check because now the king can't go to b7. So you go king c8, and now I take with the king. The next move I can come back. This is weak, and once again it's better, like let's say here, here, here. I would like you to take your time and try to figure out how should white win in this position. Very cool move because I defended a7. It's winning. Yep. Knight b6 check, brilliant move. A b6, and this pawn is queening. So a6 was very nice, but he went rook d8. It was not bad. Bishop takes d8 was played. I think if rook d8, maybe he would have gone a6 anyway. But here black can go bishop, king d6, which is very interesting move, and perhaps white is not clearly better because the knight is trapped on b6. I was also looking at knight a6, rook a6, king b7, but here white has a strong move to win. You can think about it. What should you play? At 2 ways, I guess you can take on a7, take here, and knight d5 followed by knight e7, but perhaps even more accurate is to go knight d5 straight away and then after king a6, knight e7, and black is better because the knight could take on c6 or come out via f5. Anyway, he took with the bishop and Magnus played a6, classy move. Now you can't take anyway ab6 because a7. So black took on a6, and now what would you do? A very important moment actually in the game, because if you play rook a6, then after ab6, bishop d6 or rook a7, I think white is doing pretty okay. But no, not bishop b6. Because if you play bishop b6, then king b7 is a big issue, yeah, and black is the one who's winning. But you can start off with here rook a7 and white is better. But knight a6, rook a6 is met with king b7, which is a very nice move. And this time, there are no knight d5 ideas attacking the bishop because now it is on d8. So Magnus finds this very nice move, which I want you to pause and think what to do. Yes, not knight a8 because then king b7, black is better, but knight c4 and took, because otherwise, you know, if you move the knight a7 is hanging. So take, rook takes, king d7, he took on a7, bishop c7, white is doing really well, and here Magnus goes f4. Could be also possible to go g4. Somehow Magnus was a little bit impatient in this game. He wanted to do things directly. He went f4, king c8, fe, and now fe was played. But maybe king b8 was more accurate. Well, you don't really want to give up a pawn like this, but I think black is okay here because the rook can come to e8 or g8, attack these pawns, and black has enough activity. But you take, and now this is the moment where Magnus had a very strong move which he missed, and I think everyone on social media was like, oh, how did Magnus miss this? And so I want you to figure out what should I do here. Yes, Magnus played rook a8, which did not work out because after bishop b8 there is no way to break through. If you go bishop here, I go king b7. If you take, this pawn endgame is a draw, so you can't do that. The move here is bishop to, not check by the way, bishop b6, and if you take the bishop, I give a check and I win your rook. And if you play bishop d8, then I can take and take on g7 with a winning position. I mean, all other moves seem to be bad, and I think Magnus would have won, you know, g7 pawn and later the game. It was a costly miss because after rook a8, bishop b8, Magnus never really got a chance to get a huge advantage. But I'm also in awe of Gere Sune Tallaksen, because even such positions against the world champion are not at all easy. You know, he has a small edge as white here, but black played really well. h4, and I think here Magnus could have taken and pressed, because if rook f4, there is h5. If rook h4, then king b2, rook h2, then king a3, rook h5, and rook g1, and somehow white has got things together and has good chances to win here. I mean, gh4 had to be taken, but Magnus went rook d1. This allowed takes, rook g6, rook d7. King is very safe on a6. You can attack the bishop, but the king will come back. Bishop f2, rook f6, bishop d1, bishop e1, g6, bishop d2, bishop d6, and now c5, and now the b6 pawn is falling. Black has now extra pawn, but this pawn is weak, and Magnus still tries a bit here, but somehow black is very, very solid, and he wins the c4 pawn. But now g5 pawn is weak, so take here, take on g5, check, and he transposes it into a rook endgame, which is a draw. And does it quite smoothly here. Wins the pawn. Here goes back, king d4. Behind, take here. And, this time his pawn is queening, but okay. Here, check, rook goes back, and the king comes here. And finally, they play until bare kings, and it's a draw. What a game! And really, a lot of chances missed there by the world champion. But the way he played the first phase of the game was beautiful. You know, maneuvering his pieces and all, getting a winning position. But then the IM from Norway, Gere Sune Tallaksen, played beautifully well and held the world champion to a draw. Now that's something that you can boast throughout your life for your grandchildren. Also, Tallaksen is a very good composer. I got to know from my friend Shatanik, who is the problemist at ChessBase India. Yeah, so this is the picture that was taken from the Twitch live stream. And also we have a few more here. This is him when he was young. And this is his family over here. A very nice family. And today's another thing for you to solve is Gere Tallaksen's position. This is composed by him. It's white to play and win. And the clue for you is you should begin with rook h3 as white and threatening a mate on h8 over there, and black will then long castle. Okay, so this is a small hint for you. Now try to figure out after rook h3 long castle how to win, and if you find the solution, please let me know in the comment section. Well, for now, I think Magnus will be a little bit upset with himself because after winning the Tata Steel Chess 2022, he gained 3 elo points. But with this draw, he lost 4 elo points. That's how difficult it is to be world number 1 and to aim to reach 2900. Every single game is important. For now, this is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye-bye.